good evening and welcome everybody to BCS Learning Development Specialist Group and this evening's session on the Princess Royal Training Awards. My name is Kevin Streeter, I'm chair of the group, and just want to give you a brief introduction to the group. Before we get started, I want to say we are going to be recording the session tonight, and it will be available on the BCS website after the event. If you do have any questions, then please put them into the chat and we'll get underway. And you could put yourself on mute during the session, and then we'll open up again for Q&A later on. So BCS Learning Development Specialist Group is for anyone that's involved in the development, delivery or management of learning to IT and communication professionals and users. So hopefully you'll find something in there that resonates with you. So we're all interested in learning and generally around the IT domain. And this is the background of our membership. So around 18% of our members are involved in end user skills training. So things like Office Suite and so on. 18% in professional skills, so things like project management and process management, 16% in technical skills, 16% in university or education sector, and 32% who are just interested in learning and development in the IT field. So we have a website for the group. If you want to find out more about the members of the group, the committee, and what we do, then please go to the Learning Development Specialist Group website, and the links there in the presentation. And more recently, we've put a number of our presentations onto the BCS member group's website, and that's where you'll find this recording after the event. If you go to the BCS member groups area on YouTube, there's a channel there for the Learning Development Specialist Group where you'll find our recordings. I like to put this into our intro, just say we have been involved over the last year in development of a book specifically around technical training management, which was a collaboration with SEDMA Europe, the Training Directors Network. So that's now available on BCS Bookstore. And you can either get that as a hard copy or as a nice EPUB. So please go take a look at that. And finally, for my intro, our next event is March 23rd, and that's going to be on skills bridges, getting people into meaningful employment. More details on that are on the BCS Learning Development Specialist Group website. And that's where you need to go if you're interested in registering for that event. And please do follow us on social media. We will be tweeting during tonight's event, and please follow us. And it's one of the first ways you'll hear about new events that are coming up, and a good way of keeping in touch with the learning development community. So with that, I'd like to introduce Sally Ely and Michael Osbaldeston from the City and Guilds Foundation. They're going to introduce us to the foundation and to the Princess Royal Awards. So over to you, Sally and Michael.
Thank you very much, Kevin, and thank you very much for inviting us here this evening. We're very excited about coming. So we're going to talk you through, as Kevin says, some information about the foundation, but mainly focus on the Princess Royal Training Awards, and then take any questions you might have at the end. And if there's anything you think about afterwards, then we'll share our details and you can get in touch as well then. So the foundation. Michael and I are from the foundation. I have an echo. Does everyone else have it? Okay, well hopefully it will just fade away after a while. I'll keep going. If it becomes too difficult, just say, and I'll switch to Michael.
Michael, can you just put your microphone on mute?
Yeah, what I'm going to do is turn off that sound share until we need it, I think. because I think that's the thing that triggers it. We've worked out.
The fabulous joys of technology. So Michael and I, we work for the City and Guilds Foundation. Michael, if you can go to the next slide. And the foundation is part of the City and Guilds groups, and it's the place where we everything we do amplifies the purpose of City and Guilds, which is all about, here you can see, helping people, organisations and economies develop their skills for growth. And the way we talk about that quite often is about saying helping people into a job, helping them progress on that job and into the next job. And all of the programmes that we do within the foundation somehow do that and help support that message. So, as I said, we are part of the wider group, and on this slide you can see all the other all parts of the organisation, and the way in which we differ from them mainly is that we don't sell any products and services related to skills development, but they all do, all different types of things. The one you'll be most aware of probably is City and Guilds, but all of the surplus that's made gets either put back into those areas or it comes into the foundation to support our work. So that just gives you a bit of context about the foundation. And then I'll talk a little bit about the 3 areas of work that we cover. So Michael, if you can go to the next slide. We, as I said, everything that we do amplifies the group's purpose, but we broadly do it in 3 main ways. Firstly, through social investment, and this is mainly through a programme of grants and bursaries to organisations and individuals, helping them with skills development in ways that we think will lead to real impact. Again, getting people into jobs, progressing their skills, that kind of thing. Then we have a big area around awards and recognitions, and our Princess Royal Training Awards is our flagship award programme that we're here this evening to talk to you about. But we have a number of other awards programs. We have fellows, for example. We run awards in different types of areas. And we have a number of awards that go back quite some time. So it all fits within that one awards bucket. And then finally, we do a lot of work around and through advocacy networks. We're really fortunate, because we're a 142 3-year-old organisation, to be connected to a wide range of champions and networks. And so we really make sure that we use make the most of these in terms of supporting and building our work, all to do with championing and further developing work that can be done through skills development. So that's really what the foundation encompasses. And Michael and I, and Polly, our other colleague from the foundation, who's here helping us with the technology, we all work for that, for the foundation. So in terms of the Princess Royal Training Awards, I'm just going to give you a headline about what they're about, and then Michael's going to go into more detail. And then I'm delighted that we're joined by Tessa from Net Matters, who's going to give you her perspective as an organisation that applied for an award, got the standard, and she can tell and share her experiences. So what are they then? So first of all, it's important to say that it's an award scheme that recognises any organisation that can prove that it had some kind of issue that it addressed through training or skills development, and it can prove the difference that was made to both its bottom line, or if it's a charity, its services and its people. So you have to evidence the benefits that you've been able to achieve. It's a standard. It's not a gold, silver, bronze award. It's any organisation can apply, any size, from any sector, and because it's a standard, that's how it can be applicable to all, and it gives a certain amount of equity then for any organisation that does reach the standard. And Michael will show you later some of the examples of organisations who've got it to date. It's free to enter, so it's not like a lot of awards where you have to pay, and then if you get through, or even if you don't, you can buy a table. There are no costs associated with it. The only costs are really to do with time, because it does take time to apply, but everything else, including all the support that we give you and the celebration activity, should you reach the standard, is all free. And that, for us, that's because we're doing these awards to put a spotlight on the best practice that is achieved through training, and to sort of, if you like, ripple effect out the skills development message. And so it's free to enter, it's open to all sizes and sectors. It's obviously got royal recognition because the Princess Royal is our president and has given her name to the awards, and not just her name, she's very actively involved. Every year she receives the recommendations that the assessors make in terms of which organisations should meet the standard that year. And she's been quite involved in previous years in sort of really trying to understand the detail behind it, which is great because it actually brings it to life and it makes it not just one of those, you know, rubber stamp at the top of it. She's actively interested. And until last year, we held every awards ceremony at St James's Palace, where each recipient got the chance to meet and talk to her. And in even the one that we had last year, she joined in a virtual capacity, albeit through a video link, but again, really made the effort to personalise her messages to companies. So she's a massive champion and advocate for the awards and for skills development more generally. It's also, if you get the standard, then it's the opportunity to join a community of people that we've now got an alumni of over 200 organisations, all who can learn from each other. We hold events, we connect people. So it's not just for the time that you're applying for the award that you get the benefit. There are other, there's a wider offer, if you like, that being part of this awards community gives you. So that's the sort of top level, what the awards are about. But I'm going to hand over to Michael now to talk you through the detail about what you need to do in order to be able to apply, and some more sort of behind the scenes stuff. So Michael, over to you.
Thank you very much indeed, Sally, and thank you for the invitation to speak tonight and to join you. So it's a great opportunity, a great privilege to be able to join you, and thanks to Tessa for coming along. I saw Tessa smile there when we said that in previous years we've actually taken people to the palace, and unfortunately Tessa didn't get that, but we're hoping to do that in the future, so hopefully we can rectify that at some stage. Yes, the awards are part of our Royal Charter work at City and Guilds. We are a Royal Charter charity. We've enjoyed royal patronage since we were founded back in 1878, and it's an important part, and it's a privilege and an opportunity again to be able to offer this royal recognition for people achieving a standard of excellence, and in terms of making an impact on their organisation and indeed on their people. And what we've created through the Princess Royal Training Awards is a platform to help learning and development professionals celebrate the impact that they make and help them showcase what they can achieve. Now, very often in an organisation, we know that learning and development is one of those things that happens, but nobody's quite sure why or what, or certainly not what impact it has. These awards bring the impact to the fore, celebrate it, put it on a pedestal, and let other people share in it. So that creation of a platform is a really important part of our lifting the L&D world to show what in fact they contribute to the success of organisations large and small. And as Sally said, it is a standard, and that's a really important part of the whole concept of the Princess Royal Training Awards. If you have a winner and lots of losers, everybody goes away unhappy. If you tell somebody they've reached a standard of excellence and you're willing to celebrate that, then the motivational level that produces is enormous, both in terms of the L&D professionals, in terms of the senior management, more importantly, in terms of the people who've been part of that learning and development program. And the voice of those learners is a really critical part of hearing what impact it has. Now, we've all had a very different experience of learning over the last 12 months. I think most parents have discovered that they really didn't want to be teachers, that having to try and homeschool their children, and Sally will vouch for this, is actually very challenging. And I think we've all learned that a blended approach in the future, bringing together digital technologies and physical technologies, will probably be the way forward. But that concept of showcasing what it means to learn, what it means to teach well, what it means to train well, what it means to identify opportunities that can deliver impact to organizations and do that strategically and practically and design well is all part of the ethos of offering the Princess Royal Training Awards. Now, the application process we've designed to be easy would be the wrong word. Logical would probably be a better word. The awards are very robust, and we are offer an award robustly, intentionally. If you associate the City and Guilds name and the Princess Royal's name to any award, then it obviously has to be fit for purpose par excellence. And we make no apologies for the robustness, but we do set out, and we have set out, we put a lot of effort into ensuring that although they are robust, they are extremely accessible. And we support people through the process to ensure that whenever possible, they achieve what they're setting out to achieve. We say the ethos of the awards is to catch people in, not catch people out. We're there to try and help people showcase what they're doing, excuse me, rather than to trip them up. Oh, excuse me.
I'll just add something there, actually. I forgot to say, one of the key things about the awards as well is that we offer free feedback to everybody who applies. So, you know, it doesn't matter whether you get the standard or not, because your application will get assessed by a trained assessor that we contract out. It's not done by us professionals. Therefore, you will get a written feedback that will give you lots of indication about what you're doing well, what you could do better. So it's actually a bit like a free consultancy offer as well. I should have said that in my part, Michael. So I thought I'd just take the opportunity while you were having a drink to just add that section in.
Yes, thank you very much indeed, Sally. I was going to come to that, but it's a really important part of it. And that feedback that we give is absolutely essential. It also helps people build better for next time. So the process itself is divided into 3 main units, and they're called hallmarks of excellence. And those hallmarks are designed to enable you to tell your story. And again, rather than trying to trip people up when they tell their story, we're trying to facilitate people, enabling them to draw together the things they need to say, to show why they've used training to develop their people, what they expected to achieve through it, how they designed the program, and then finally, of course, what impact did it have on those people and the organization. And step by step through the process, we provide guidance, we provide details about criteria, we provide people with suggestions, and we help people understand the sorts of evidence that we want people to put forward for the assessment. And that process has been designed to be a self-reflective process to enable the applicant to stand back from what they've done, to see how they've achieved, and also to see how they can draw together the evidence of what they've achieved. Now, a lot of organizations report back that even if they don't get the award in the first year, the process is actually a useful process in its own right. And we have organizations like the Royal Bank of Scotland and the Royal Navy use the same process to assess their internal training programs. So the model is a fit for purpose model, whether you're applying for a Princess Royal Training Award, or indeed whether you're using it within your own organization to assess why you're doing a piece of training, how well have you designed it, and what impact has it had at the end. And so those 3 hallmarks are a useful tool. And as Sally said, if you don't achieve the standard in the first year or even the second year, there is detailed feedback, and that feedback is a form of free consultancy to enable an organization to reflect back on what they've done. We will provide a one-to-one support through an assessor to work through that feedback and to have a dialogue with the organization to ensure that they understand why the decision has been made, but equally how they can build on what they've already done and develop what they've done, hopefully to become successful in the future. So in many ways, There are no losers in the Princess Royal Training Awards. Yes, it's very nice to go to the palace and have an afternoon tea and receive the award, and that provides an enormous amount of motivation, a great deal of celebration. But equally, the process itself has a value, has a benefit, and is usable and is fit for purpose in terms of that self-assessment and that self-reflection. So it has to be robust, as I said, because the Princess Royal puts her name to it. It has to be robust because City and Guilds puts its name to it. Those two organisations are committed to excellence, committed to robust assessment. We wouldn't expect anything else. But it does, again, provide the learning and development professional with this royal recognition. And that's a really important part of it. And we know from talking to the people who get the award that actually getting a chance to meet the Princess Royal, to actually talk about the award with her. And we know when she meets people at other events later on, she remembers and she talks about why they've got her award. So there's a significant amount of pride that she has in being able to recognise people for their contribution to UK PLC, because every impactful piece of training has a real genuine impact on either the bottom line or on customer service or on the ability to recruit more staff and better staff or on the motivation of staff. There are a whole range of reasons why investing in training is effective, is useful, and indeed it's impactful in terms of the success of an organisation. If I just flick on one, we'll just see some of the organisations who have had the award, and we've well over 200 organisations now. And they range from small organisations, small commercial organisations, through to large internationally recognised names, people like IBM. They are voluntary organisations, they are educational organisations and not-for-profit organisations. The whole range of organisations indicates that as a standard, it's a valued standard across, whether it's to do with sector, to do with size, or indeed to do with geography. And we're proud of the fact that we have applicants from across the whole of the United Kingdom. Some of those, Gateshead College, for instance, some tremendous work around mental health and well-being a couple of years ago. Royal Bank of Scotland, a lot of work on customer service. We've got the Clink charity that works in prisons to provide people with training in hospitality and catering to reduce reoffending and successfully reduce reoffending through creating jobs when people leave prison. The award was not for that. The award was for how they developed their staff. And that's the important part of the award. The award is given to employers for developing their people or for developing their volunteers, not aimed at colleges for the training they give to people. If the college, so if you look at the Gateshead College example, that was all about what Gateshead College did for its own staff in terms of giving them the skills to be resilient in terms of mental health, but also in terms of opening up that conversation around mental health amongst the staff. That meant they then provided a much better service to their students because that had been addressed. They were better qualified, better trained to be able to deal with quite difficult situations. A really important part of the award is that this is for employers investing in their people. Or Macmillan Caring, for instance, down in Christchurch, it was Macmillan upskilling their volunteers that then allowed their professional staff to be more effective and to deliver better quality service to the end-of-life care that they were offering. So virtually any area of the world of training has been covered in terms of the Princess Royal Training Awards. And we're very proud of that because we know that training can make a real difference, whether you're a SME, whether you're a multinational, whether you're a voluntary organisation, or whether you're a professional body, or whether you're an educational establishment. The model is effective and works across all different sectors, all different sizes, and all different sorts of organisations. And as Sally said, the great thing about these organisations is that they talk to each other. We bring them together through the alumni. We bring them together through conferences, through pop-up conferences, through events. We know that people who are L&D professionals who have achieved the standard of excellence of the Princess Royal Training Awards are more than happy to share their learnings with other people within the training and development world. And that, again, is one of the significant benefits of becoming an alumni is it gives you access to a range of professionals who have already probably solved the problem that you're trying to solve. So reinventing the wheel is something we're really keen not to happen. We encourage people to share things. We encourage people in the alumni to check to see if anybody else has had the same problem or the same opportunity that they're facing. And if they have, talk to one of the alumni, learn what you can from them, build on the shoulders of giants. And of course, that means it becomes much more cost effective. It means that people can learn from one another and develop even better programs. So the benefits of becoming part of that alumni are enormous. And it's been not an unintended consequence. We knew that creating an alumni would be a good thing. We didn't realize how enthusiastic the alumni members would be to share with one another, to come together and to learn from one another. So that's been one of the things that's evolved through the process, which we're absolutely delighted about. Now I'm good.
Your Royal Highness, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of all of us at the City and Guilds Group, welcome to the 4th annual awards ceremony of the Princess Royal Training Awards.
The nice thing about the 4th year is that we can say that we're attracting entries from a very wide range of employers and from many sectors, and representing, more importantly, organisations of all sizes.
Now on to the brilliant work of the charity. Well done. Hoganstead Senior Care. Dermalogica made the decision to change the way it trained its employees about new products.
The awards are not a competition, very much a recognition of what you have achieved yourselves. So thank you very much for taking part, and you're very welcome here today.
So there are real benefits in applying for the awards and receiving an award. And we know from the research that we do with the people who are successful that it helps with recruitment, it helps with retaining staff, and it also, interestingly, helps with increasing budgets and investment in future training programs. Now, in some ways, you shouldn't be surprised at that, because every L&D person always wants a bigger budget, and they go to their finance director and say they'd like a larger budget, and the finance director says, well, why? Well, if you got a Princess Royal Training Award and you can say you've gone through the robust process that's necessary and that the Princess Royal has recognised your training and the impact it's had on your organisation, that's quite a powerful conversation to create within an organisation. So we're delighted that we're enabling professionals across the L&D world to access more resources to make more impact in the future. And as you can see from the Royal Bank of Scotland, they have applied and been successful in several years because they know they can use it internally to drive the motivation of staff, to drive the focus across the organisation around training, and to raise the profile that training and learning and development has amongst not just the people within the organisation, but the very senior management level as well. Now, I'm bound to say all this because I'm part of the team that runs these. So I'm now going to pass over to Tessa and ask if she can tell us what it actually means from Net Matters to have achieved the award and all the hard work that she put in to actually applying and being successful. So Tessa, thank you for joining us this evening. And can I hand over to you, please?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Thank you for having me. So as mentioned, I work for Net Matters. I'm one of the senior project managers that works there. I have been heavily involved in our Scion Coalition scheme, which is the name that we call the training program that we have to train our developers. So we're a full service IT and digital firm. So we've got a big IT team. We employ 30 full-time developers as part of our web offering, as well as digital marketing. We started the program essentially because we were looking to grow. We had the business coming in, we were being really successful. All our sales guys were selling system after system and website after website, but we couldn't find the technical staff to actually build as much as we were getting in. So we were either having to give clients really, really long wait times, or actually kind of at one point start to think, you know, are we at the point where we need to start turning down work because we can't kind of work to the level required to keep up with demand. Being based in Norfolk, there's not necessarily a ton of technical resource, and people being trained to a standard that can kind of come in, join a project and work as developers is quite small. It's not something that's necessarily taught any more than kind of a rough amount at school, and you really would have to specialize at either college or university to be up to that standard. And it's, from our experience, something that, yeah, there's a big skills shortage. So we decided to start training our own. A few years ago, we took 4 people on from, I think 3 were completely unemployed and 1 was working as a sort of day labourer on a building site. All they had was a passion for technology, but no real skills. We thought, okay, if we can take these 4 guys, train them up, hopefully one of them can be someone we can hire. So we're not going to have to poach from elsewhere. We're not going to have to, you know, pay ridiculous recruitment fees to try and coax people from other agencies. Let's start growing our own. Of those 4, we managed to turn all 4 into developers, and 3 are still with us today. 1 is now working for somebody else. We started to roll this scheme out further. I think this month we have taken onto the course our 100th unemployed person onto the course, so that's quite a big milestone for us. We work with the job centre, who refers people to us that are unemployed with this passion and ask if we can train them up. And it was actually somebody at the job centre that suggested us applying for this award, because they thought that our training programme would fit really nicely with the framework. My director just sent me an email with the words "win this" and told me to apply. So I went over to one of the workshops in Suffolk that was run by Michael and some of his colleagues, listened to some of the stories of the other applicants, and actually thought, yeah, I think we do have a really good chance of achieving this standard. Came away, started to fill in the paperwork, had lots of kind of help with whittling out what was good evidence, what was the right kind of thing that we wanted to show. Again, we had all this stuff internally, but it was a really nice excuse to, you know, work out the statistics, you know, have a look and see, oh, this is how many people that we've helped get into work. This is what this is achieving. We started to gather some quotes from either students that were on the course or students that had finished the course, which is something that we hadn't done before, and starting to receive those submissions back of people whose lives that we'd changed and we'd been able to take from unemployment to being web developers was a really nice thing to have done. A few other benefits that it's had for us is obviously shining a light on it, so the rest of the people in the company can see what we're doing in terms of this training scheme. Obviously people in the company are aware of it, especially the web department, where we're hiring as many web developers as we can train up. But it's had the knock-on effect since, you know, we did quite a lot of publicity around winning the award. We were actually recontacted by the job centre since we have moved the course remotely. Obviously we were based in the office. Now we're offering that training remotely. We were in a position that we could only offer places to people that lived in Norfolk because they had to be able to get to our office every day. Now we've moved remotely, and our staff work remotely. we have now started to offer the course nationally. And it's something that I think we've only been able to do by raising our profile, by winning awards such as these. And it now means that we can offer the course and employment to people from all over the country. So we're now having, I would say, somewhere in the region of about 15 applications a day to come onto the course, which is keeping me quite busy. But like Michael said, we've now got the budget, so I'm hiring an assistant and they start on Monday. So yeah, it's really helped raise our profile. It's raised the profile of the scheme internally, as well as with kind of all our shareholders and stakeholders that we've got in the community, and has really been part of that push to expand and grow the scheme further than, to be honest, we thought possible a year ago. So it's definitely been a really positive experience for us.
That's fantastic. Thank you, Tessa. I think that's that motivates us in terms of the team, and we'll be sharing that with the rest of the team tomorrow. We've got a workshop tomorrow for people who are applying this year, and one of the things we do is run a series of workshops. Before last year, of course, we would travel around the country and do them as we did with you, and met you, in fact, at Ipswich, when one of my old colleagues, in fact, Sue, who helped organise that, was a previous colleague of mine who had moved jobs, but in fact suddenly became an honorary volunteer member of my team again for the course of the day, which was wonderful. But certainly that story of the transition from a local opportunity to a national opportunity is, I think, one of the opportunities that the COVID crisis has made us address and made us want to take further. So lots of people see that obviously nobody would have wished a COVID crisis on the world, and it's been horrific for many people, but there are signs of light, I think, and growth that have evolved from it, in that we've all been challenged to do things differently. We've all been challenged to look at new ways of being successful and impactful, and it's obviously paid dividends for NetMarketers in terms of it's catapulted you into a different sort of engagement and allowed you through that to create opportunities for 100 people who've come through Job Centre Plus. That's an amazing story, that those people who prior to this would not have had those opportunities, but who now, because of what you're doing and because of the fact you know it's impactful, can go on to be successful and create successful futures because of it. So congratulations to NetMarketers on creating at least 100 lives that will be better than they would have been before. I think that's a really dramatic story.
It was really nice, actually, because we had the virtual visit rather than an in-house visit. And I remember kind of a couple of days before trying to round up some either current or previous students to come on and share their experiences. And again, it's not something I'd ever done, is sat down and talked to them about how the experience had changed had changed their lives, had changed what they've been doing. So it was really nice in that that virtual visit to just sit and listen to some of them and hear what they were doing before, and the fact that they're in their early 20s, they're buying their first houses, they've been promoted from junior to mid-level to senior developer over the past few years, and the things that they were working on. So that was, again, a really nice kind of thing for us to look back internally and realize the difference that we're making with our training.
I think it really does that, doesn't it, Michael? It gives and Tessa, it gives the opportunity to really be able to show your own people as well at that reflection time. Oh wow, look what we have achieved, and we hear quite a lot of feedback from other organizations who say that it's almost an unintended benefit is to, because of the reflection process going through it, it enables you to have the opportunity to celebrate with your teams in a way that isn't probably there in lots of other awards. Also, the other thing I was going to say was to pick up that point about the support that we offer. So you said you met Michael at a workshop. I can just imagine that workshop. I've been on many a workshop with Michael.
But the difference, Sally, was you didn't interrupt me halfway through the workshop. That was different.
Yeah, well, there you go, Michael. There's some benefits. But alongside the workshops, the calls that our team offer, well, we're happy to talk to anybody who's thinking about applying. They might have looked at it and thought, well, I'm not sure if it's for me. You know, we can't help you enough. And our team are available 24/7 in our, which we always proudly promote, because we're such a passionate group about it, because we know a lot of people spend it's around the edges times that goes into award applications. So we want to help support people. So I just wanted to push that point, because if you do look into it afterwards, and we would love you to go on the website and have a little look at the application process and form, then, you know, it isn't just, we are here to help. That's it, really. Michael.
Yes, I think that's a really important point that Sally just raised, that the team are around to help, and it is almost 24/7. I can remember potting some seedlings on last spring in my shed, and the phone going, and it was the Metropolitan Police wanting to talk about the application, and the person who was doing it was on shift on a Sunday morning, and she thought she'd try the number out, and of course we, managed to get the gloves off, got the soil out of my fingers, and answer the questions. And we're very happy to do that, because the thing that we discover with everybody we meet through the awards, people like Tessa, people in other organizations, is they are such enthusiasts, and they are making such a difference to people's lives and to their organization's success. And we have the privilege of hearing many of those stories. So this afternoon, for instance, I was talking to a hospitality organisation up in Scotland about their apprenticeship scheme. I was talking to the HMRC about their apprenticeship scheme, which is really exciting, that sends people out around the world at 2 hours' notice and deals with international crises in normal times. We get the chance to talk to all these people and to listen to these stories. And to be honest, we are wowed. And we've been wowed since the first year, and we continue to be wowed by the impact that training has on individuals, on organizations, on teams, on the families of people who have the training, on the people that they serve and the people they provide the products and services to. So we're proud of the fact that the awards bring all this together and celebrate it, recognize it, and demonstrate the difference that it makes to people and to the organizations. So thank you, Tessa, for sharing Net Matters, and I hope you're going to put forward a COVID commendation, because the alumni have been invited to share their stories this year of the things they've done during COVID, and we want to gather those, because we know there's some fantastic things happening, and we're going to share those through our alumni and through the website, and to recognise the tremendous contribution that people are making. Now, I think we've probably got to the point in the evening when we can take questions.
Yeah, thank you for that. It's been really interesting, because I didn't know anything about the awards at all, and yet they sound absolutely fantastic. And I love the whole ethos of sort of everybody is successful. It's so unusual, particularly in the IT world.
There really isn't.
Yeah.
There really isn't a downside of applying.
So
well, the only downside is listening to me normally. That's
well, there is that.
So I'd say if anyone's got any questions, please put them into the chat. But I've got a couple that I'd like to start with. The first is very simple one. Why haven't we heard of these before?
That's a good question. We do promote them, and we're successful at promoting them. We interestingly, we've just done a piece of work to see which sectors are underrepresented.
Yeah.
And Stuart, who's our IT guy and who does wonderful things with the analytics that you can do these days, is just about to present us with a report. And one of the things we're keen to do is look at geographical areas in the country that we're not attracting employers from.
Yeah.
We want to identify sectors where we're underrepresented.
Yeah.
And we want to look at the sort of the nature of training programs. So we're gathering that together. We've been running, this is our 6th year. We doing our best to be as representative as possible, but we're also aware that unless we use the analytics that we can do, we then, of course, can't do the targeted marketing and communications that we need to do, which is very much what this is part of.
Yeah. And it's fair to say we don't have big, we have very small marketing budgets. So we have to be really careful and targeted about what we do.
So, no, it's really nice that we've come across these now, because I think this is Tessa's story is fantastic, and thank you for sharing that, Tessa, because biggest issue in the IT industry is the skills gap, it's skills deficit, and show how do you bring people in, and you've just described a perfect example of how to bring people into the industry and get recognition for the great work you've been doing. So really, really good story there. A couple of things I did note down. One's, can you just talk briefly about what the standard is? What is it that applicants are trying to reach? What are we trying to demonstrate through applying for the awards?
Well, right. Let me go through the process, the assessment process, because that will begin to indicate the work that goes on behind the scenes to identify organisations which are of a level of excellence which the Princess Royal is prepared to put a name to. So there's an online application system which is done on with a set of criteria, with a set of questions, and that process is marked by independent assessors that we can contract to do that. The assessors have no more information than the applicants in the form that we don't hide anything. Anything that we have is available to, whether you're an applicant or an assessor, that information is available. So you complete the form, you attach the evidence, and they're evidence-based, so the evidence is critical. The assessors, and 3 assessors will look at each application, will then mark that and assess the evidence that's presented. What we're trying to recognise is what you as an applicant are seeking to achieve. So the narrative has to be that we've identified this is a challenge or an opportunity, we've designed the programme to address it, and we've got evidence of the impact that it's had. Now, we don't dictate that. We're agnostic as to what that is, but it's up to the applicant to ensure that the story is told well enough that we can assess what they've done against what criteria they have set themselves as success might be.
Can I add to that, Michael? I think the criteria, when you're an applicant, looking at the criteria, which are all clearly marked out. So under each hallmark, there's probably four or five criteria under each, and we say how many marks you get for each one of those broken down criteria. And we encourage you to make sure you address that. And those criteria were put together under a very long, well thought through, tested process, and we review them every year, don't we? So I think it's important to understand that that's how we establish the standard, if you like.
And we did that in conjunction with industry, so that it spent over a year developing them. And we went and spoke to micro businesses, SMEs, multinationals, and we asked them what they wanted testing against in terms of the criteria and in terms of the process of extracting from the applicant the answers to the questions that they wanted to be asked, if that doesn't sound a bit convoluted. Having gone through that initial assessment, we end up with 3 categories. We end up with people who it is very clear that the evidence is supporting what they're saying, and they're very likely to achieve the award. We have a category of applicants where the evidence is insufficiently strong to support what they're saying, but may well be stronger the following year. So very often people apply too early. So we will provide feedback on that. And then obviously there's a middle bit, and we do a day-long moderation session looking at a dozen or so of the ones in the middle to say, do these fall on the positive side or on the not quite strong enough side? And that's done by the assessors and by the team. And it's interesting that that's the point when we argue as to whether this sits on that side of the fence or that side of the fence. But curiously, when you read them, it becomes clear as to whether something is exemplary in terms of the evidence that's being presented, or whether the evidence is lacking in terms of supporting the story they're telling. Now, nobody's competing with anybody. So the reason, two organizations, there is no competition between them. We never judge one against another, but we do judge them against the quality of evidence supporting the statement that's being made. We got over that stage.
More than one assessor reads every application.
Yes,
so you could get, so to avoid that kind of bias creeping in, I think it's 3 assessors, isn't that right, Michael? Read each application to make sure that there is that fairness across the assessment. Yeah.
We then go to what used to be visits around the country, and last year were done online, as Tessa said. something we would have never have done unless we were forced into it. But in fact, it turned out to be a much better method because you could bring people in from all over the place, and you could access chief execs for 10 minutes. You could bring in learners from one part of the country to another, and that's a 3-hour session where the assessor and an ambassador from City and Guilds will check that what's been said and the evidence that's been presented is as it says, and occasionally we discover that the evidence doesn't stand up when we go and look at it in detail. Sometimes the story may have been told a little too brightly, and it's an important part of the process to check and to sense check all the things that have been presented in the application form. It's very important because if it's not in the application form, it's not looked at the virtual visit or the real visit. It has to be in the application form to be part of it. Having gone through that process, we then look, the assessor all through the process will have been building an audit trail of the decisions they've been making, and they will have been evidencing in the audit trail why they've made the decision to put it forward or not against every element within the application form. So there's an application form here, there's an even bigger report running alongside it that details the assessor's evidence for why they're making the decisions. And then at the end of the day, having gone through that, the chief assessor makes a recommendation to City and Guilds, to the foundation, that these are his recommendations, that this application should be put forward to the Princess Royal for her to approve. And at that point, we make a submission to the palace. The princess will read all the paperwork and challenge some of it, and she will at the end of the day agree with the chief assessor's recommendations against all that evidence that the assessors have built to prove why they believe a particular application is deserving of the award and has reached the standard of excellence. So it's actually a remarkably robust process. And last year we recruited 2 new assessors, both of whom have been former successful applicants. And Peter, who was actually a legal in general the year before, said that had he realised how robust the assessment process was, he'd have been even more worried about applying for it. But equally, he said what was very clear was that the whole thing is absolutely transparent, and there is nothing that happens that the applicant isn't aware of.
Oh, probably something else we should say, Michael, is just that you don't have to have any connection to City and Guilds to apply. No. So even, I think at the beginning people may have thought, oh, well, I don't, I'm not involved with City and Guilds, or I don't, it doesn't matter. For us, it's all about the purpose of the organisation, which is that whole promoting skills development.
Yeah, so that's an important element.
And if I can turn to Tessa for a minute and just say, how was this from an application point of view? Did it look scary when you first saw the criteria, the application form? I'm thinking particularly that this is a really great story for us as a specialist group to tell to our members more widely and to get more people involved. And the story you've told tonight is great, but everyone's going to want to know how is the experience? Is it you just sort of look at it and think that's going to take me 3 weeks to even work out where to start?
No, to be honest, it was relatively straightforward. I would say going to one of the workshops definitely took any apprehension I had away. Again, obviously my director just told me just do it, just get on with it. So it kind of wasn't a choice. But essentially the form is boiled down into, it's essentially six questions, isn't it? The hallmark split into 2. So it's 6 questions that need, a chunky paragraph as an answer. I'd put some kind of bullet point notes together, but coming out of the workshop session, kind of as soon as I got back to my desk, I was able to kind of write up most of it because we were given, a steer and lots of advice and lots of things that were, good things to bring up. And after that workshop session, it did take any kind of apprehension I had away.
Good. So, well done, Tessa, on the workshop. Well done. That's
yeah.
I'm glad Sally heard that.
So, Tessa, would you say that this is something that you think a number of organisations in the IT sector could apply for, would find value from?
I would say definitely. I think obviously coming from an industry where there is, in development, you've kind of got a junior, mid-level and senior, and you're not going to progress until you help your juniors overcome their issues. And again, if it's more slightly IT focused, you've probably got first, second and third line IT technicians, which again, internally, you're always hoping to get your first lines up to second and your seconds up to third. If you have that process that you do internally, and you can evidence it, then I would say definitely go for it.
Yeah. I'm already thinking of a whole list of organisations that just do exactly that. So we can make much more of this now and tell people, because I think having that context of, yes, this is something that the IT industry can get behind. It can help. Even if it just brings a few more people into the industry, it all chips away at the skills crisis. And we have a skills crisis in every sector of IT, every area, whether it's development, security, everything. Anything that helps with that is going to be really valuable.
We're very happy to talk to employers, Kevin. If you talk to people and they want to hear more about it, we're very happy to run a workshop with them, talk them through it. But like you say, it raises the profile of what an industry does for people who apply to work there, and that's such a powerful message, because people these days, before COVID, all the research said that applicants for jobs wanted to know what would be invested in them and their future. And if you have recognition through the Princess role that you invest in your people and you do that to a level of excellence, then that's quite a powerful story to tell potential applicants, because it's not just getting a job, it's getting a job with an employer who values you, but values your ability to progress and to develop additional skills.
And what's the best way to get in contact? Go to the foundation website? Or
we didn't put our contact details up there. That was a faux pas of ours, wasn't it?
We can. There's the Princess Royal website, which is, if you just Google Princess Royal Training Awards, that will pop up.
I'm going to put it in the chat now, so everyone
thanks,
can
Polly.
see it.
Or you can do what Polly's suggesting and go into the chat now, which is probably easier.
And I'll be sending an email out to everybody in the Learning Development Specialist group with sort of the link for the recording, and I'll include all those details as well. So
Thank you, Kevin.
And if Tessa, is there a description of what you've gone through available on somewhere? Is that on the website?
Yes, it's on the Princess Royal Training Awards website. If you go on to 2020, the Successful Organisation 2020, click on the logo and you'll go through to the short, the little piece about Tessa's organisation.
Fantastic.
But actually hearing what Tessa's just been saying about the expansion, I'm sure it's one that we'd like to write up in a more fulsome way. So once we have that, we will share with your community as well.
Please do, because that's such a powerful story, and it is one that I hear repeatedly every discussion about skills in the IT field. Everyone's got the same issue about where do we get people from.
I would say our organisation, we were members of a skills task force, and we were on an action group, and we were on all this stuff that was essentially, let's all have a meeting about it, and we'll agree some actions, and we'll meet again in a quarter. And it kind of got to the point where we just sort of said, well, someone needs to actually do something rather than just be on a task force and chat about it. So it's again having the recognition for being someone that's going to go out and say, no, we're going to try and overcome it in a practical way, rather than let's just talk about it endlessly.
Great. It's, as I say, really valuable story. So thank you for joining us, Tess, because that just added the IT side to it. It's like that really helps. So I've got a couple of other comments as well, which is this just needs to be more widely known. So it's like we'll do what we can, but certainly as a specialist group, we try and be the champions of skills and learning development in the IT professional community as much as we can. And
we can provide you with some text, actually, Kevin, to send out, which is probably the easiest way of doing it. So
that would be Yeah,
tomorrow, let me send
please
you
do.
some text, and we can
Yeah.
you can use that.
And so we're at the end of our time. I'd say a couple of comments. Just say, wish we'd known about these when I was managing a team's. A couple of other comments in there as well. But yeah, really valuable. So thank you, Sally. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Tessa. And we'll get this up on our website and into the member group YouTube channel so that people can follow up on this. But we'll be doing our bit to get behind the awards. And thank you to Ken on the committee who suggested this is something that we should look at. And great suggestion, Ken. And thank you for that. And thank you for.
I just hope people, appreciate it and will embrace it, because I think they are amazing. And I was a PRTA ambassador last year. I got to engage with the Metropolitan Police and their training around stop and search, which was extremely amazing, about what they've been able to do and the things they've been able to do behind the scenes that you never hear about. But also with a very small, tiny company of 8 or 9 people doing amazing things with, believe it or not, sort of stop motion animation type stuff in order to train people in leadership and management. So it is a wide range of people out there. So please, look into the detail. It's well worth it.
Great. Well, thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for joining tonight, and really, really good session. And thank you for sharing your experience.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Tessa.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you, everybody, for joining. Thank you.
Have a lovely evening. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.